everyone, Trienne here from the Be That Create That channel. I'm super excited for this episode with Carrie Conrad today. She's going to bring some topics to light that we haven't really shared in this area before, but we also want to remember when we're talking about leadership, how leadership is how we're influencing other people's, it's how we're making decisions, it's how we are deciding what we want our life to look at or look like. And when we had our conversation before we got started, I could feel her passion. I could hear it in her voice. And I'm really excited about her being able to share what she's been doing to make that impact and make a difference with you today. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Carrie from backstage here. Hello again.
Hi, Trienne.
All right. So when we do these interviews, I love, again, I told you earlier how people's passions and just excitement for what they do come out. So because you know best, why don't you go ahead and just share with the community, what it is that you do and maybe what led you to kind of what you're working on today.
All right. To keep it short and sweet, I'm on a mission to make our world more safe. And I do that by empowering women and children with the skills to keep themselves safe, and also mothers with the tools to raise children in prevention so that we can just improve what we got going on today. Mm-hmm. We could use some improvement, right? Talk about leadership. There you go. Mm-hmm. And then your second question was?
Mm-hmm. What were some things that you did before you got to creating that Beating Disaster? You're the founder of Beating Disaster.
Before Beating Disaster, I had a normal life like other people with a 9-to-5 and a career and all of that good stuff. And I actually, life threw some curveballs. I became a single mom very quickly, and I had a little girl with high needs, and I became unemployable because I didn't have childcare. And so I ended up doing what I know, which is martial arts, and it just keeps evolving. Over the years, it keeps evolving because I love martial arts. It's a great time. I love to introduce people to what they're capable of because you already have it. You're already capable. Let me just show you what you're capable of. I love it. So I started doing that with martial arts. And then I've learned that as fantastic as martial arts are, when it comes to staying safe as a woman, there's a lot more than just punching and kicking. Mm-hmm. And so that led me on a journey to learning more, teaching self-defense. And then after teaching self-defense for a decade, I found out what women really need to know by hearing a lot of stories. Mm-hmm. And just serving and hearing stories, when honestly, we need to be safe from our loved ones. We need to be safe from our parents with dementia. We need to be safe from our children with mental health concerns. We need to be safe from our siblings struggling with addiction and alcoholism, like the things that we need to be safe from. Punching and kicking is not really all that appropriate, Mm-hmm. Like we need different skills, but with the same goal of wanting to be more safe. So that's what I teach today. And it's a privilege and a pleasure.
I love that. So where do you do a majority of are they workshops? Are they online trainings? Are they in person?
In person, and I travel. So I'll go to your company. I'll go to your home. I'll come to your mom's group. I go to your yoga studio. I have businesses that host training and provide services for moms that I get to go in there and teach, like bodyguard training for moms and just a lot of really fun stuff. So I come to you. I do have online services, but none of them are for physical defense. They're all about perspective. Because like you and I already started talking about, perspective is everything. I have tremendous power just by choosing how I look at something. Mm-hmm. And so I actually have it's called Mama Bear membership on just changing your perspective so that we can bring safety and security and confidence and change into the world.
And that confidence, as soon as you said that word, it took me back to something we were talking about before the live, where you said that confidence when you walk into a room, if you're going into a scary place or you walk into a room. So when you think of that, how would you start a conversation with somebody about that? Especially I have a couple of friends who I know they'd be like, oh, I'm not scared, whatever. I'll go anywhere and do anything. Okay. I am going to admit that I am not easily intimidated, but I'm intimidated. So how would you start that conversation with somebody?
You know, for like me personally, I was that person when I taught karate, right? I can go anywhere and I can do anything. And I mean, like, I did. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why I teach self-defense now, because I did. Like, what happens when you go out there with that attitude?
Mm-hmm.
You find it. And I found it. And I have a ton of really horrible experiences that have allowed me to be of service to other women. I know what it's like to not leave an unsafe relationship. I've lived that. So, though, and it's like, the people who talk about that confidence, there's a difference between cockiness and confidence, because
Mm-hmm.
cockiness is a cover. It's a cover. And a lot of us talk a good game. A lot of us, especially when it comes to physical safety, we tell ourselves I'm safe. We tell ourselves, or like people, they'll go get a black belt and spend time in dojos, or they'll go get a firearm, or they'll go get weapons, or they have a keychain with like 50 self-defense tools on them. And they tell themselves that I am prepared and I'm ready. But on the inside, you're not available for life.
Mm-hmm.
You're just
Yeah.
not available.
I was just having this conversation a couple weeks ago with my daughter. So she is 11. And, we were talking about different situations and what would you do if you don't feel comfortable and blah, blah, blah. And she told me, well, I can defend myself. And she showed me how she punches and how she kicks. And I said, yes, but do you think that you would do that right away if somebody grabbed you from behind? Do you think if you were in a situation where you were unsure about your surroundings and felt unsafe, that you were just going to walk up to someone and punch them and kick them? That is not what you're going to do. So what would be your advice for someone as you're first having that conversation? You're first saying, okay, it starts with you, right?
People really don't want to hear what I have to say about stuff like that. It's so funny because they want some, like, I can't come up with a better term. They want some badassery. You know what I mean? They just want, and I'm like, emotional intelligence and interpersonal skills. And then guess what? As an 11-year-old, I have one. You're talking about a time in their life when they are the most vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And the concerns that I need to look out for, like, it's not to say that like strangers don't do bad things, because it does happen. However, more often it's my best friend's husband. More often it's my pastor. More often it's my chiropractor. More often it's somebody that I know, somebody that I'm not willing to punch and kick. Mm-hmm. So that's how. So that's, like I said, we really need softer skills. Don't get me wrong. If you're willing to punch somebody in the throat, I am a fan. You know what I mean? There's some things that are effective, and and on that note, punching and kicking really isn't as effective as we're told it is, or we want it to be. But there are simple things that are very effective. And one of them is listening to that internal guidance. You talk about leadership. Mm-hmm. That's so important. And you talked about the importance of like a morning routine. Without that morning routine, if I'm running around, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to do this and this and this, and this isn't going right, and that's, and I'm late. And when I am in that state, I don't notice that guy over there. I don't notice a change in behavior in somebody because I'm not available. I'm just not available.
Yeah, that's so smart, because even as, my second daughter is 8, and even talking with her, when people start to get so upset and, like you're talking about, stressed out because they don't know what's going on with their day and things are coming at them, you're so heightened that you can't think of solutions. You're in this constant heightened state. You can't think of solutions. And I try to help her understand, yes, I understand that you're upset, you are worried, you are anxious, whatever it is, but we have to slow ourselves down so that we can be aware not only of the surroundings like you're sharing, but what am I going to do next? What's my next?
Worse than not being available for solutions, we're not available to see when there's a problem. Because really, like, again, like people, they come to me and they like want to hurt somebody. They want to, and I can teach you that. But the real value comes in self-care and trusting yourself, being willing to say something doesn't feel right, I'm not showing up to that appointment. I know they're going to think poorly of me. I know I'm going to look like a flake. Those aren't my values, but something doesn't feel right, and I trust myself. I know myself well enough, and I trust myself that this is out of the norm, because there was a time I was reading police reports all the time. That's just what I see. I'm the right kind of weird. I tell people all the time, I'm the right kind of weird for teaching you this stuff. Okay. So I spent a long time just reading police reports. And what I found is, like, victim statements, like, a lot of them start off with, I had a really bad feeling, but I thought it would be okay because ... And so if I'm really busy, if I'm in a hurry, if I, like, it's just, I just don't want to be that important. You know what I mean? Like, I just need to make sure that life is in session. I know that bad things happen, but I focus on the good that is in my life, and I know that I'm always called towards good. I'm always led towards good, as long as I take enough care of myself to be in that place. And I've been at a place in my life where I wasn't called to good. Let me tell you, you don't end up in a unsafe marriage because you're, chasing rainbows. Like, right. I ended up where I ended up because I didn't believe I deserved good things. And so I didn't have a good life. It's inevitable, right? So it's like that perspective. Perspective is so important, because nobody can take it from me. People can influence it, but at the end of the day, I can say, no, I don't like this perspective. I don't like how I feel about what I'm thinking. I don't like the results that I'm getting in my life, and I'm going to change it. And there's nothing anybody can do about it. They can try, but it's ultimately up to me to allow them to change me. But I am responsible for me. It's not easy to leave, but it's possible to leave. It's not easy to do a lot of these things, but it's possible. It's kind of like for parents that have kids with, like, even teenagers, that's like a mental health crisis in itself. But, like, struggling with mental health, it's like, listen, I need to come into the day thinking, I am the adult. I am the example. I need to, yes, they're wrong. Yes, this is freaking insane. This is insanity. No one's saying it's not. But what am I contributing? What do I bring to the table? Am I doing enough self-care that I get to bring in the calm, that I get to bring in the emotional availability? Do I get to serve my children? Or am I running around on Kind bars and energy drinks, and I'm like, I can't take your crap, Like, I have tremendous power. I have tremendous power. And I always want to bring people back to prevention. We can have, like, really, I want to say, like, dull, because of the fact at a time in my life I was going anywhere, doing anything because I could, And today I really seek out, like, a really kind of, don't get me wrong, like, my life is very exciting. It's just a different kind. It's the kind of, like, wow, look at these great things happening. Wow. Oh, look at this parking space. Wow. I got free tickets. Wow. And it's like, it's because I changed. I changed. I understand my life. I am the common denominator in my life, in all of my situations, in all of my circumstances, in everything I bring to the table. I am there. That's a lot of power. That's a lot of play. That's a lot. What am I doing with it?
I love that you bring that. I mean, there's so much power in what you just said. So much good stuff in what you just said. And if we could, I'm going to take that back. When we teach our children that they have that power, the power of their words can either bring somebody up or tear somebody down.
Yeah.
The power of their actions. It does not, I also am very careful to say, no, your sister did not make you mad. You chose to be upset over what just happened. And you're not mad at your sister. You're mad at her behavior. I think it's really important to look at those words so that they're not labeling themselves or labeling the other person, and instead really labeling your feelings and owning it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that brings me, like, back to, because again, you have 8 and 11, and I want my girls, I'm raising all girls, talk about motivation, I'm raising them to look at how they feel in the presence of the people around them. Because like, I'm going to use a scary word that's really upset. I try to stay clear of this stuff, but people think trafficking means something that it's completely different. Like a lot of times it starts out in a dating situation, in a job interview situation, in like, we're not looking for trafficking. Like, I think trafficking is when I go to Target. I don't want to go to Target anymore because I think I'm going to get nabbed. And it's like, that's not, don't get me wrong. Like it's always and never. Yeah. Always and never do not work in this world. You don't apply. Mm-hmm. But I shop at Target and enjoy a coffee while I'm shopping, and I'm not on high alert. I'm not even worried, However, when my daughter tells me that she made a new friend, that is where I invest my energy. And I'm like, oh, tell me about your friend. And I just listen and hear about her interactions in that relationship. And it's like, we can determine how safe or unsafe a person is very early on in the relationship. And then we get to choose who we invest our very valuable time and energy, and just because of like, well, I don't feel good around them, so they're bad. It doesn't have to be that. It's not that black and white. It's just, why don't I feel well? Do they not align with my values? Do I feel unsafe? Why am I so uncomfortable? Because a person that isn't mindful of my well-being is very easy to pick off very quickly. And they don't have to be bad. They could just be selfish. Like, that's enough. You know what I mean? But it's just, I want my children to have that discernment, which is, by the way, like we talk about being prepared. That's the D, Yeah. I want decisive action. I want to be aware of how I feel, and I want to have a plan of action for wherever I end up. I don't plan for bad things to happen. I don't. I plan for a good day. I expect a good day. But when I am uncomfortable, there are things that I do depending on the circumstance or the situation.
Well, especially if you already know whether the person is a fight or a flight. I know that one of my daughters would be a freeze. She would be like, because it's that not wanting to hurt anybody's feelings. It's wants everybody to be all cohesive and everything is rainbows and butterflies, right? And it's like, that's fine. But if you are feeling uncomfortable, you have a voice to share that you feel uncomfortable, and giving them that power to share that.
Even if they don't have the voice, you can still leave.
Yeah.
No voice necessary. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just go. And that's the thing. Like, if I'm not there, it's not going to happen to me. It's that simple. And I don't think that people, because of the media and movies, and we're led to believe that bad things come out of nowhere, and they don't. They don't. You can see them from a mile away if you're willing to look for it. And it's not, and again, I don't even want to say, I don't go around looking for bad things. I look for the things that feel good. I look for the stuff that's fulfilling. And then I have a plan for the stuff that's not. Mm-hmm. And by living in the stuff that's right for me, I am less likely to ever have to need to defend myself or speak up to say, hey, I'm not comfortable with this. Because if I'm choosing situations, places, people that I feel good around, I'm less likely to even have to use those skills. Don't get me wrong. I teach them. You want them.
Right.
You need them. Helpful. But I put a lot of my energy and effort into teaching prevention, so we can just have safe lives and be making the world more safe without living in fear and terror.
Mm-hmm. And being an example for others to be able to follow. As soon as we learn something, leaders are that continuous learning, right? Continually bringing things in to try to make their lives and the people around them better. And I've always found that as soon as I learn something, if I teach it right away, like tonight, if I have a conversation with my best friend or her kids about this type of situation that we have today, then it's going to be even more instilled in me because I've put words to it and I've shared it. And I've taught it, right? So I think that ripple effect is real for sure.
Well, more than that, just because like a bunch of moms will be like, hey, let's go do this. And I'll be like, oh, you all have a good time. I'm not going. And they'll be like, oh, are you busy? No, this just isn't something that I feel good about. Mm-hmm. And like, that's enough. that does so much for other women to be like, wait, we can do that? Yeah, we can do that.
Yes, you can say no. It is a
Yeah.
complete sentence.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, Carrie, thank you so much for everything that you shared today. I've had you on hot seat now for 20 minutes. So I want to make sure that you get an opportunity to share. We're going to make sure we get your website in the show notes for you as well. But is there anything specific? I know you said you had a lot of resources available for people on your website. Do you want to share some of those resources they might find?
Yeah, sure. If you go to that website, like I said, people, they go to self-defense, they want self-defense, they want to fight. I have a comparison guide on all the pros and cons of all the different types of self-defense, or what people call self-defense, and how to navigate that world, how to ask your instructor the right questions so you know the training that you're getting and what that training covers, and probably what that training lacks, because there's so many skills, you're not going to get them all in one place. It's highly unlikely. So you'll go in knowing what you want, what you're getting, and you have the confidence to do that. So that's on there. And then what else is on there right now? Like I said, we just changed it. So
Constantly evolving.
yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
And it's such a privilege. But I just love to invite moms to come check it out. We have like a Mama Bear Prepared membership, which is the mindset, motivation, and materials for you to keep your kids safe and raise your children confidently to be prepared for the world that we live in today and to make it a safer place. So, and hey, I can come to Coldwater, Michigan to do self-defense training too, just saying.
It's not far. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I work for the domestic women's shelter here. It's the Naomi Davis shelter. So we are always looking for things like that as well. And I will definitely make sure that I share these materials with them too.
Yeah. And if you do that, make sure that you tell them that I can provide trauma informed, because there's nothing that takes more skills than teaching a room full of domestic violence survivors, anything related to this, because it's very triggering. So
true. And so needed. That's for sure. All right. Well, again, thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today on the Be That Create That podcast, YouTubes, wherever you're finding us on the social channels. We appreciate you taking the time to share with us today. And obviously, Carrie, I appreciate you taking the time to share your information with us, too. It was powerful, to say the least.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a privilege and a pleasure.
All right, guys, have a great day. Get out there and create your leadership lifestyle, and we'll see you on the next time.